All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am excited for our guest today because we have Paul Jackson with Method CRM or just Method. But Paul, welcome.
Hey, super excited to be here with you.
Yes. Well, today we're going to be talking about increasing efficiencies with workflow automation. We're going to be talking about some of your background work with products that interface with QuickBooks, and now what you guys are doing at Method is some good stuff. So, Paul, we always like to start out with your background and how the heck does someone decide that they are going to develop an application for scheduling around QuickBooks? I mean, where does that come from?
So I guess early on,
Yeah, let's start back
entrepreneur.
back in college and before that. And how
Well,
the heck
yeah,
did you get
it's
into what
even
you do?
it does all start like in college. So
No, wow,
um,
that's awesome.
the I think prior to college, I also had some kind of like business on the side, right? Like whether it was cleaning neighbors' pools or a camp, taking all the Mountain Dew from the local store and bringing it back to camp on horseback and selling it back to their campers. I also had some kind of business gig going on.
Yeah.
Um, I started a lawn care and landscaping company when I was in high school, and ended up cutting like 130 lawns a week and employing
Wow.
a bunch of my teammates or classmates, paying $10 an hour to cut grass than me. But it became a real business. It paid my way through college,
Wow.
um, and I think I learned a lot about hard work and process. But when you have 130 lawns a week and you're billing that at the end of the month, actually you need some kind of like system to
Yeah.
to do it. So like I had like all these spreadsheets going on,
Yeah.
and I kind of figured something out. And then when I was graduating college, or my last year, I was I was in finance. Like I was at Queens in Kingston, and so it spits out a bunch of suits. All the Goldman Sachs kids, McKinsey kids come from like the program that I was in. And that was
Oh, wow.
that's what I was supposed to be doing
There's
is wearing
high
a suit.
expectations of where you're going to go. Yeah.
That's I realized in my last year, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to be a suit, and I decided I was going to start a company, my own company, and it just made sense that I would kind of automate what I had uh, kind of jerry rigged together uh, through college for service businesses. So help all services business with a problem that I had, and that's where I started. I actually ended up not graduating on time because I started this business up
Yeah.
while my last year, and I had to do a victory lap and stay in college for an extra year just getting this thing off the ground. So that business grew to about 25 staff before we ended up exiting to a private equity company. And I learned a whole bunch of things along the way. But
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't start off. So back to your question on like, how do you get to scheduling software for QuickBooks? So that didn't start off with QuickBooks. It started off with just regular landscape maintenance software, and
Oh,
uh, and there was this one customer who one day said, you know, if QuickBooks just did this, I wouldn't need you guys. I thought that's a really interesting thing, right? Like, what if is that a competitive problem? If QuickBooks one day did scheduling software for landscape, no, they're not going to do that. But if that's really what he thinks is important, then what's the next best thing? And back in those early days when you're an entrepreneur and you're just kind of figuring things out, you burn
mm-hmm.
those 120-hour weeks when you have an idea, and I did
Yeah.
that for a couple of weeks. So 240 hours later, I had this working prototype where the software we had bolted on to QuickBooks, sucked all the customers out of it. You could put those customers onto the schedule, and you could do routing um,
Wow.
and invoicing from that. But those invoices went instantly back to QuickBooks, where you receive the payments and let all the accounting stay in QuickBooks. And that was a hit. People loved that, and
Yeah.
so that's when the business took off, and that's when we really started to scale the company. Um, and 10 years later, I guess we exited.
Yeah. So scaling a company like that, a SaaS company is a little different than scaling it, more like a manufacturing company or e-commerce or something like that, or a service-based company. What were some of the challenges that you encountered then that helped you prepare for what you're doing now?
Yeah. So back then, so we're talking about the years 2000 to 2010. So SaaS, as we know it today, didn't really quite exist in those early years. You're still selling perpetual licenses, which meant like you're selling software for $2,000 and hopefully get an annual maintenance fee for $400.
Yeah.
And that's how it all works. But I remember the challenge of that was the sales cycles. You'd have a busy season up until April, and then it would kind of die off. And I thought back to like the service business I ran before, and that was just steady.
Yeah.
Steady's good.
Yeah. Steady's good.
So we became SaaS before there was SaaS, and so we started renting the software. So it would download a password every month, and that would basically be desktop SaaS before there was online SaaS, and that helped the business eventually scale. But there's a valley you got to go through, because in software you have a lot of upfront costs to build the software out, and the cost of marketing and sales is a lot upfront as well. And with SaaS, you get paid gradually and slowly over time. So with perpetual licenses, the old software days,
yeah,
sales, marketing, big upfront cash payment, paid off. Use the profit to buy your next customers. SaaS, you can't do that. So that's why you see a lot of VC capital going into SaaS companies, because it is an incredibly hard company to bootstrap. Very, very hard.
Yeah, that's a great point, because like you said, you have to do all the development up front, or a lot of the development, at least for your MVP up front. And then you got to do all that marketing and all that sales effort just to get your monthly SaaS payments to come in. Whereas before you had a bigger lump sum payment that would come in and help to pay a lot of those costs. So you could sink millions of dollars into something before you start getting hundreds of thousands of dollars coming back on a monthly basis.
But once you get there, the company's incredibly valuable. It's just very few companies get there, and most have to raise capital, give up a bunch of equity in order to actually make the cash flow work.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting business.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I hadn't had someone say that before on the show, because it really hard to bootstrap in the beginning if you're going to get all the upfront.
Yeah, it was also hard the second time around. So we got acquired in 2010, and then we sat around a boardroom. We thought, okay, well, what do we do next? And we thought, what's the biggest problem that our software company had? And we got down to the point that a lot of companies, they start off using the software, and then they scale themselves. They grow, and they outgrow the software, just because every business is different. You can't make a one-size-fits-all software and not have people scale out of it. And we thought, how do we solve that problem? We sat around for a while, and we thought, well, what if the software is malleable? What if like they can make their own features in the software? What if they could use 90% of it, but then change 10% of it to be whatever they need? What would that look like? And if we got around QuickBooks, it would be the holy grail. What would that be? And we came up with this idea of this platform that would basically drag and drop and make the product, little bits and pieces. And if you put it all together, then you have this SaaS product that can be changed. And so we'd have thousands of customers with thousands of different versions of the software, and it'd all work. And that's what Method became. Was that idea? So here we are today. We're 100 people, and this time we took VC capital eventually, because it's too hard to scale without it. And that's what we do. We have thousands of companies using thousands of different variations of the product, all through a perfect business process.
Oh, we got to dig into this. We got to dig into this, because this is like, I mean, so you envisioned and built a product that, if Damon looks at it and our company workflow is different than your company workflow, I can change it.
You can change it. You can do it yourself using drag and drop, or you can hire someone to do it.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
good.
I think an example, like there's
That's
there's I think the medical cabinet maker,
Mm-hmm.
is a really good example for that, because they had a standard estimate for him, and we built a whole different estimate process for him. So the story behind this medical cabinet maker is every medical cabinet is custom. They all
Mm-hmm.
have different drawer configurations, and each drawer does certain things and holds certain equipment. And the entrepreneur, this business owner, knew what these configurations were. Some configurations are possible and some are not. And the estimation process was very, very hard for him to let other people do. So he was doing all of it. And up to the point where he gets around 10 employees, that's okay. They're around 10
Yeah.
employees, cannot scale his business anymore. He has plateaued in sales. He's a backlog of estimates that he's trying to get out. Hasn't been able to close the sales anymore because estimates are going faster from other competitors.
Yeah.
Calls us up and says, "Hey, how can you help me here?" So we just built a process out which had all these rules of which cabinet configuration is going to work, which count, and then he had other staff doing it from that point forward, not him. All done the exact same way according to these rules, and all those estimates flow back into his QuickBooks. And that cost is probably cost him $2,000 to have that done. And so anyone who's built custom software knows that like that's super cheap. Anyone who's not had it done before, it might sound expensive, but the ROI is just massive on something like that.
Yes. Well, and when you look at something like that, and if you could somehow embed that into an e-commerce website where your customers could configure online, get the price, pay for it, and do what they want to do, you've created a pretty good machine.
Yeah, and we do that with like customer portals. So people have their customer portals, log in, and customer self-serve and do, whether it's dog walking or pool configurations or what, like you name the business, we have them under our umbrella, and we just help them really help the entrepreneurs scale themselves. So the things that they used to do and they hold dear, they now allow customers or their own staff to do and scale their businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some of these, when we look at, I've talked to people like Christina Harrington with Gen Alpha Technologies. They do for like, a large OEM equipment manufacturer, like a street sweeper manufacturer, right? So they're going to make hundreds of these things. They got them all over the world. They get people that do it, and it's all database on 3D models, and they can go down into, I need this gasket in this piece. It's kind of cool, but it's really, really, really incredible to hear you talking about something that is a simple application for the person down the street that's making something like these cabinets, because I've been involved in businesses where we make different kinds of metal enclosures, like not UL. Some of them actually were UL based, but some of them weren't. But it's like, okay, it's configured this size and it has a lock on, or it's got 2 locks and it's got some different things. This would be awesome for that company, because now it's just, and to be integrated with QuickBooks would be crazy cool, because you can manage all the financial pieces of somebody buying and
you have all the items from the QuickBooks item list, the customer who the estimate is going to, and then you convert it into an invoice eventually when the customer accepts. So it all just flows without double entry. It is the holy grail, more or less, that we had sought out years ago.
Yeah. So what's some of the most interesting applications you've seen?
There's a whole bunch. I'll give you another simple one. A guitar pick company. The entrepreneur, the CEO, they're selling guitar picks, and they're scaled way beyond 10 employees at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But she does all the payments still. Why is she doing all the payments? She asked us, is there a way where we can have our staff using Method, but I'm the only one, lock them out of doing payments? Yeah, we can do that, but why do you want us to do that? Well, I have staff, they always just screw it up. Like certain customers need to be on ACH, and certain customers need to be on credit card, and above a certain amount, it needs to always be ACH no matter what. We're like, okay, well, these are just rules. So we could just make a button that changes based on the amount and the customer, and then her world just changed. So
Oh
I don't
yeah.
have to do this anymore, and I
Yeah.
don't have to trust my employees to just follow it. So like things like that, to like a mosquito spraying franchise with 150 franchises that go around and basically make sure back gardens are livable, but having all that flow into one consolidated we call it multi-tenant. So we have 150 QuickBooks files, 150 CRMs, all in one big dispatcher reporting system, where they've built an entire custom system on top of Method. It's really just from the guitar pick company to the mosquito company. Like there's a lot in between.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and rolling things up like that is so complex too, because
It
you got
is.
different
Yeah.
things, different areas, different tax codes, all kinds of junk. You gotta make sure. But that's the guitar pick though is it's like death by 1,000 cuts, right?
Right.
Just because I just hate doing this, but I'm the one that I hate doing, but I gotta do it. And you said, well, we can just make rules. I bet they were just jumping up and down when you did that.
I think that customization cost them $300.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which of course the ROI is crazy. I mean, she could have done it herself, but it was pretty easy for us to kind of do it for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
But yeah, just examples like that. Like any little workflow where the entrepreneur, the key person in the company, is still a bottleneck for growth. Just to write down those steps that they're doing and figure out how do you automate them. That's I think what we do best. And there are, like you said, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. There's probably every company has 100 guitar pick payment scenarios within them. You just got to
Yeah.
automate one at a time.
Yeah. So what are some of the other things that Method really helps with? I mean, are they helping with data flowing in and out from other systems? What are some of the other things that you guys are doing with
Well, I mean,
Method?
so at its core, Method's a CRM. That's the
Okay.
starting point. No, very few people are starting from scratch and saying, okay, hey, I'm a small business, I'm gonna create my own system from scratch.
Yeah.
That's not really how we go to market. So we start with the CRMs. The CRMs are well, let's explain the acronym. So it's customer relationship management, really contact management.
Mm-hmm.
So track conversations, to-dos for a customer or a potential customer. We call them leads, and share that across everyone who might interact with that customer. So one shared 360-degree view of a customer.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what CRM is at its basic core. But then on top of that, you can have a pipeline. So a pipeline is where you have possible sales of leads down to like highly qualified, where it looks like you're going to be able to get a quote out to them, to like almost closed to closed.
Yeah.
So you're tracking your whole pipeline to make sure that you are directing your sales team to work on the highest value, highest potential accounts throughout a month, and that really like each stage of the pipeline is full, so you don't have a big gap in sales too much down the line. So it's another big thing that really any CRM does, but we help them with. We have a good proposals system, so you can do engagement letters, which allows usually professional service companies to send out an engagement letter, which is kind of a contract and estimate all mixed into one, and the customer can accept it, sign it, pay for a down payment, and then kick off a recurring payment every month, which just gets sent back to the company. Of course, people change it, customize it to suit their needs, but it's a lot better than sending Microsoft Word documents to customers and hoping that they pay. It's kind of earth shattering when those payments just start coming in automatically.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a very handy thing for a lot of companies, I'm sure. Like you said, professional services companies, where they do have those kind of agreements that you have to do for CPA firms, accounting firms, and other like engineering, things like that, where they can do those things. So when you see this happening now, the way that you're integrated into QuickBooks, and you look at other standalone CRM systems, what are some of the things that you see the benefits of having this integration? You talked about a couple already, but I'd like to highlight those.
Yeah, I think if you look at traditional CRMs, they're really good at what they do. The like whether it's emailing a email campaign
Yeah.
or tracking your pipeline and whatnot. And some do integrate with QuickBooks. They might post a lead over. That's maybe the extent of their integration, but they can put a little QuickBooks check on
Yeah.
their feature list. Our take on it is, yes, we synchronize with QuickBooks really well, and we do more than just the customers. We synchronize with all the transactions, the full 360 review of a customer: invoices, estimates, credit memos, payments, sales orders, sales receipts, like everything. But it's malleable. So with all the examples I've been giving so far, where you're customizing a payment flow, where you're customizing an estimate flow, you can't do that in normal CRMs. And I think this is part of a larger movement. We started early back in 2010 on this, but I think most software in the future that you'll see built will be more like this, where it can be configurable to the point where everyone's getting their own custom system. Because if you have an apples to apples comparison of a system that's malleable and one that is static and can't be changed, what's going to win in the long term? It's the malleable
one.
Yeah. So this is the future, is really this malleable software. We call it no code software.
Yeah. Well, and you can, as your business changes, you can just keep changing your workflows.
Exactly. So the problem with any kind of boxed software, whether it's traditional CRM or traditional industry specific software, is you have to rewrite your workflow steps in order to fit the software. And that might work for a little bit, but every time you want to change it, you outgrow. Eventually this comes where you have to get new software. With this, you just change the process. You're like, oh, we have a better way. Well, just change the clicks on the screens, change the checkboxes, change the fields you're collecting information on, change the button. So now it matches your new workflow step. You never have to conform to someone else's way of doing the work. You do it your way.
Yeah, and this is awesome because when I used to be involved with manufacturing companies, and we would put ERP, enterprise systems, in. I mean, you do it their way, or you pay $1 gazillion to have them customize your stuff that is going to be obsolete at the next update, or it's going to cost you another $1 gazillion to get it updated at the next update, and then you're just not changing after that. You're stuck with what it has.
It's like SAP, right? It's like, this is SAP for small business.
Yeah. So cool. So as you're doing this and you see this malleable software, whatever, use the right word there. Where do you see this going? I mean, because it's really an interesting concept to be able to go, okay, now what do we do?
So for us as a company, where do we see our company going?
This around your kind of software, what are some things that you see people starting to use it that you go, wow, I didn't really think about it, but it's a cool direction for somebody to take it?
I think the opportunity for us to help more companies to make it easier for them is to offer more and more industry specific templates. I mentioned proposals for nonprofits, so for the professional service. We have a donor version for nonprofits. We have a field service version for service companies, but really getting more and more fine-tuned, more and more industries will help them start off further along. So I think that's where I see us taking it. And also I think that's probably where the industry of the software industry will take it. The more pre-configured templates that can then be customized, the better. It makes it easier on the small business looking to adapt and take on new software.
Yeah. Now you, in this business, you guys have scaled a lot in the last few years, right? So you're up to how many people now, and what was it like 5 years ago compared to what it was now?
It's different, right? So we're 100 staff now. I think I think there's a few steps that
Yeah.
the entrepreneurs to go through. I think 10, 0 to 10 was fun. It's a
Yeah.
really fun, like just high energy. Everyone's around you. Like you can observe everything. You can things are gonna fall off. It doesn't matter. It's just part of the fun. Getting to
Yeah.
20, the entrepreneur has to really um, learn to scale themselves. And then 20 to 40 is horrible. I remember that being just the hardest time because that's where you need scaffolding. You need to bring in people from the outside and have some adult supervision for a company. It's really hard to do that yourself without having some senior leadership because the people you're bringing on don't get to be with you as much anymore. They
Yeah.
can't learn through osmosis. They need to learn from leadership, and that's where I, as a leader, had to go from doing and building to leading, and that was a transformation for me to go through. I think 40 to 60 was fun again because I figured that part out. Like so now, okay, now I'm an executive leader. That's not so intimidating anymore.
Yeah.
And then 60 to 80 was tough again. That's where like HR becomes a big deal. And so you have to
Yep.
learn a whole bunch of new things and uh, and, and like corporate process that you didn't need 0 to 60
Yeah.
because why would you create process for the sake of creating process? All of a sudden, everyone expects. And then 80 to 100 has just been fun again. It's just like
Nice.
it feels like being at like 10 employees. You're scrappy again. You're moving fast again. And I don't know what's next. I don't know what
Yeah.
100 to 200 is going to look like, but
Yeah.
definitely some learnings.
Yeah. So so you see the future of the product is going to be industry specific templates. Um, what do you see? I mean, there are so many choices for people when you look in CRM packages, when you look at accounting packages, all this kind of stuff. What do you really see in the trends in these kind of softwares that someone listening today would go, huh, why would I think that method might be a little bit different than some of these standalone things? Is it the integration? Is it the configurability of it? Or what are just some things that kind of set you apart?
Yeah, so I think it's actually just the three things we've been talking about, really, which is the integration, the customization, and the templates. So the way we see the market today is it's mostly traditional CRMs. We're talking about the Salesforces and the HubSpots, which are great at what they do. They ask you to conform, to rewrite your workflow steps in order to fit the software, but they work for a bit until you outgrow them. Or you have industry specific software, which are also great. They take you most of the way there. Again, you're reworking workflow steps in order to fit the software. You might need a CRM on the side. Typically, the industry specific software doesn't have much of a CRM.
Mm-hmm.
So you're integrating, kind of Frankensteining that CRM together with your industry specific. That's kind of how people do things today. And they're all a hell of a lot better than just using whiteboards and spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way we see the market is that if you can wrap, first of all, the software around what people already use, and everybody's already using QuickBooks, then you're already starting off in a great spot because there's no double entry. So
Mm-hmm.
the data flows back and forth really well. You're saving people a lot of time and few mistakes. So if you can really nail one integration and really nail it, it's the accounting software. And
Yeah.
mostly in the US, that's QuickBooks. We also work with Xero, which is more of a UK and New Zealand, Australia. But we do that really well. We're more than just a checkbox. And that's something we brought over from the last company, Q Express. That Q was for QuickBooks, right?
Yeah.
So we do that really well. And the second piece is that the malleable, where you can build your own process and you can change things according to how you do your work. That's again different with method. And because we start you off with some of these templates, then you don't have to do all that work yourself. Right? And that's how we see the future of software is kind of our model. We won't be the only ones doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but that's fine. I think it's just helping as many small businesses as possible. And the more we educate the market, this is the better way, then the more small businesses get helped. So that's really the lay of the land as far as I see it.
Yeah. Well, and if you give somebody the best Swiss Army knife, they have the best end result, right? So, and that's really it. There can be a lot of other people, but you've got a lot of road ahead of them as far as developing this kind of product that is, as you said, malleable. It's flexible and tightly integrated with their accounting software.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the fun new industries that are using Method that you go, I would have never thought that they would be using it?
I'm not sure they're fun, but we had a big splash of vape companies for a while. That was
Oh yeah,
that was a
yeah,
little bit surprising.
yeah.
I really like one of the franchises that signed up recently and added, I think, 40 or 50 franchises to Method and built out a whole franchise system. And
Wow.
they're a garage, kind of a garage makeover. Turn your garage into like your man den kind of garage outfit, and make this really sweet configurations and just turn your garage into a beautiful space. That's been a lot of fun seeing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Trying to think of trends. I think we're seeing a rise back in manufacturing, like a rejuvenation in manufacturing, small manufacturers. And that's exciting. Like actually, our biggest group of companies that use Method are what we call MWD, manufacturing, wholesale, and distribution, and that those are our largest accounts, typically our most successful accounts, which I find interesting because we don't do inventory.
Yeah.
Right. So they're using us for their sales order processes, and really helping their sales reps, and that's a big opportunity for us just to get better and better at, because I think that's a large growth area for the U.S. right now.
Mm-hmm. There is a ton of, as you said, the problems brought around by the pandemic and the supply chain. You know, I mean, let's face it. We weren't used to, at least in the U.S., of going to the grocery store and not having stuff, or not being able to buy something that we wanted on Amazon for 4 weeks because it was always there prior to that. And a lot of that drove changes in the way that the manufacturing is done in the U.S. And I think it spurred from the people that I talked to, it spurred a lot of smaller brands that were just like, hey, we should make this. Now is our time to do it. You know, we're stuck at home and we should do it. Or some were like, we're ready to come out and really came out and did it. Because yeah, we're talking to tons of smaller startup food brands and niche products, and that are just creating awesome stuff that can be in anything from, you know, construction related to, like I said, something that we're going to eat or going to use out camping or whatever the heck it is. So that's cool that you're getting that. It really makes me excited, because those companies were typically stuffed into one of these other industry specific products that they didn't need, because, you know, if you're a $2 to $5 million, $10 million manufacturer, you don't need a crazy expensive, you know. And I honestly, a long time ago when I was still doing it, you would spend $500,000 on this, and it's like $500,000. That was, you know, that's you look at it and you go, that's a third of our profit for the year. You know, why are we going to spend that much on a piece of software when you look at what you guys are creating now for these manufacturers? You can be nimble, you can be and flexible. And
and we've helped. We don't do everything, right? Like it's not. There where we have like shipping and inventory, but we'll do plugins to things like SOS inventory, which is very lightweight inventory management for QuickBooks Online. Or ShipStation, which is one of the best shipping options out there that has plugins. We'll plug into that, and so like one of our mottos was integrate with the things that we're not going to replace.
Yes.
We're not going to replace
Yeah.
QuickBooks. We're not going
Yes.
to replace Gmail. We're not going to replace ShipStation. So integrate with those, but then everything else make sure we do really well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, what are some of um, the interesting things that you've learned this time growing this company because you had investors alongside of you this time compared to last time when you didn't?
Yeah. Just in case one of my board members listens to this podcast, I'm going to choose my words very carefully. So I'll tell you how I got here. So I had bootstrapped the first company.
Yeah.
When we exited, I was 100% of an owner.
Yeah.
So I had that bootstrap experience. With capital to deploy, I became an investor. So I invested in quite a few companies. One of which was actually Wave Accounting, which had a tough beginning, but then sold to H&R Block for like $600 million. It was
Yeah.
a great outcome. But as I watched companies like Wave grow, I understood what the impact of venture capital was, and how you could really scale faster than just bootstrapping. And so when I did decide to take on capital, I think that we're about 3 years in. That's when we started looking for a venture partner, and really learned a lot about. Well, I knew a little about private equity at that point, but now venture,
Yeah.
and how to manage a board, and what the purpose of a board was. How to use things like ESOP, which stands for Employee Stock Option Plan. So how to use an employee stock option plan to incentivize the staff. I remember one of our key venture capital partners said to me, "Hey, Paul, like at the end, this thing's going to be big. There's going to be a big exit one day, whatever it's going to be, but you don't want me drinking alone. That champagne bottle maybe it's got to be big, and it's got to pour a lot of glasses." And that was great. So
Yeah.
we built an ESOP plan to make sure that every person who was helping us get there had a piece of the pie. I guess I had a champagne glass at the end, right? And
Yeah.
so learned a lot about that. Networking, like I think so. For me personally, I'm maybe more of an introvert, and I kind of keep to myself. I retain all my fears and my thoughts. And so never had a mentor. The the void that I filled with that was actually a founders forum. So if anyone listening just feels that like they need someone to listen, have someone listen to them and learn from, and have a safe space, I highly recommend you join a founders forum or founders group, which is just a highly confidential group of between 5 and 10 other entrepreneurs. You take it very seriously. You make sure you show up for every meeting. You make sure you're open and honest and you're vulnerable. You talk about anything you want to talk about. You share. You don't give advice. You only share experiences, and you never talk about the meeting outside of the meeting. And I've done this for now 5 years as part of a founder forum. And actually tomorrow I'm going for a 2-day retreat. And
Wow.
I'm in a group of 7,
Yeah.
and 5 of the 7 have exited in the last 3 years. So I'm not sure how much business we'll talk.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible experience. I've learned a ton from other entrepreneurs, but it's by being open and honest with the founders forum. So I recommend that to anyone listening.
That's really cool. That's really cool because there are different experiences, but they're shared experiences too. It's, like you said, what's the purpose of a board? It's a big thing, right? Because in your first company, you didn't have a board, did you?
Yeah. No. Why would I have a board? So,
Yeah, exactly.
And the purpose of the board is really to hire and fire the CEO.
Yeah.
That's pretty much their existence, and to kind of watch over their investment. But
yeah,
that is the purpose of a board.
Yeah, and when you see them work and understand how they do, that's thing. And then, coming into it and scaling like you are now, they bring the things to the table. The board does, if it's the right board, they're bringing things to the table. Like, what is an ESOP? Why should you have an ESOP? Well, it's a way for us to keep the very best talent all the way till we till we all have a lot of fun. And it's cool when you see them working well together. It really
Yes.
is. Yeah.
It
really is.
We have a great relationship on our board today. So I think when things are going well, then it's easy to have a great relationship. So I hope that if we ever have a dip, we'll maintain that relationship. But right now we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've been in companies and been in boards and on boards when things aren't going prime. They're not great. And what I see, good boards in those situations understand that if you say something's going to be the way it is and it turns out that way, that's really what we're here to make sure. And beyond that, give ideas, give good suggestions and resources when we're asked to. And the boards can help through those tough times. But you're right, in some situations when the board is not the right board, it can get really ugly and ugh. So
Yes,
but
that's
you're
why
not there.
That's why you have the founders forum. So if the board is not
Yeah.
your crying towel, that's your
Yeah.
founders forum.
Yeah,
And it's probably
exactly.
not your spouse at home because they
No,
don't need to hear it all. Right?
no, don't want to hear that. We've put up with you as a founder for this long. We don't need to hear that too.
It's amazing we put them through, isn't it?
Yeah. That's so awesome. Well, it's great to get to talk to you today, Paul. With what you guys have built a method, I think it's really incredible to see something that, for a small business that's flexible, it's a CRM based, integrates tightly into QuickBooks and just malleable, like you said, with these different pieces and workflows that you can adjust and configure easily yourself with a low no code kind of option, or have you guys do some of this and then change it later because your processes have changed in the business. So good stuff, man.
Yeah, so you got it. You understood it all. So my job here is
I think it's cool because because you're saving people. You are saving people from going out and buying this big package that is going to be obsolete about the time you put it in, because you're going to want to change something.
Or just continue to do the same things they used to do and never pass it off and never scaling to be able to afford that bigger package. So
yes,
we handle both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, because you're right. You're going to help enable them to scale because you're going to automate these workflows and you're going to make what's in people's heads now into rules-based knowledge that can be shared across the organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
Workflow steps can be done the same way every single time.
Yeah, and the consistency, because even if the founder is doing it, they're still going to make mistakes. Yeah. But you let a system doing it, it's going to do it the same every time. But thanks so much for being here, Paul. If someone wants to learn more about Method, where do they go to find out more about Method?
They can go to our website, method.me.
Method.me.
They can also, there's a URL, so it's method.me/faces of business, faces of business, where we have a process evaluation that can help people.
Nice.
Also,
we'll drop that
in a trial.
Yeah, we'll drop that in the comments too, so people see that. So thanks so much for being here today. Again, we've got Paul Jackson from Method. We're sitting here talking about increasing efficiencies with workflow automation. He was explaining all the cool stuff about Method and the configurability of it and how it's malleable and how it tightly integrates with QuickBooks so that you can get more work done and standardize, automate, and make your company more efficient. Thanks for being here today, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, hang out just a moment. Thanks everyone for being here. Deo, thanks for being here. Helicon, I don't know, dude, or gal. I don't know your comments. I don't understand, but have a great day. Talk to you later, everyone. Bye.